Alright, folks, you seen me start on this thing, part one, a lot of saw action, a little bit of rough milling or milling of this. So I'm going to bring you part two of this assembly and show you it on the lathe and everything. So I just wanted to again thank Winky's Workshop for giving me the idea, and I appreciate you stopping by and following on the journey. So sit back, get your easy chair and some popcorn, and watch the rest of this show. This next step is not really necessary. I'm just going to say it that way. I could have made this block and left these in sawed, because there's no real reason. Except being me, people, I'm going to say either me being anal, or because I want to mount this to cut my dovetail, so I use my X-axis power feed to do all the milling of the dovetail. Is the reason I want this square. Besides, it just looks better. So we're going to take another 20 thousandths cut and see if we clean it up. Then I'll flip it over on the other side, do the same. This will be a bit bigger than a regular A-size block. Not much. You know, I'm gonna probably be like and this just all this is going to be is, and I want all these surfaces machined because I want this scissor to ride on this one machined surface. So there it is, one slice. That's it. All right, I'll flip it over, deburr it, flip it over, do the other one off camera. And I'm using this electronic edge finder, which I don't use it very often. Most of the time, you have to. It's easier to use a conventional one, just because you have to take a collet in and out. And if you're drilling holes, this one was a gift from Dudley Toolwright, and so it's why I've got it using it today, because it's actually handy. I'm finding my center. I use the half function, by the way. And this don't have to be perfectly centered, but it's always a pain in the best way I know to do this. Sometimes it's tighten up on the gib, and you're trying to move it 4/10. We're within 2/10. That's close enough for what I'm doing. There's a 10th. Okay. I like the center because when I start doing the dovetail machining, it's just so much easier to work with. So let me start setting up for that. And the way I do this is why I like working off of the center. It gives me some options. So what I've done is I made the cut. It's basically a 50 thousandths cut, and measured it, because the mill doesn't always cut 3/4. So what I've done is I've measured it. Now I'm going to go down both sides and offset it and check the width. Now I'm allowing some so I can be a little bit thin so I can adjust it on both sides. And theoretically I should be about 342.5 thousandths or some number to get me close to where I need to be. So now I'm going to offset negative 331 thousandths. And we'll go back up the other way. And then I'll measure it again after this to see how close I am to the width I need. Because this is the top of the dovetail, by the way. So you got to set this before you start working on your depth. Okay, so there I am on that. All right, now that I have the width established, we're just going to mill the depth. So what I've done is I made a note, you can't see it here, how much to offset, excuse me, I hit the camera, how much to offset one side to the other. What I try to do is approximate, and because you can't really measure these, so what I'll try to do is give myself about 8 to 10, about 10 thousandths off of the bottom. So the reason behind that is that way you got that clearance, and that's going to affect your dovetail fit, and that affects it more than anything else, because that step that's in there, if you're higher, I mean even a couple of thousandths will affect how it fits on tool block. Truthfully, I've run into that a lot. So with that being said, I've got it set now. What we do next is I need to clean up something, and I'll be right back with you. It doesn't matter which side you start on. I always try to start, because I'm invariably you're doing a certain amount of climb cutting. So what I'm, so what I'm gonna do is everything's got clearance, and we'll start it up. Again, I'm gonna look, and I do not run these cutters aggressively. These cutters probably can stand a lot more spindle speed than I'm going to use. Usually I usually run this about 500. Right now I've got a touch right there. Now with that touch, if you want me to kind of move you up here where you can see, I don't know if you can see that number on my DRO, but it says minus 67 thousandths. Before I make my first cut, the biggest thing here is you want to be consistent. So when you start to measure this, you're taking the same amount off of both sides. So what I do is I've got a touch. It doesn't really matter now. So I'm going to go into basically like 90 thou. And I'll move in, which would be about 30 thousandths. And we're going to take a hit it just like that. And then we're just going to go across there. When I get to it, I'll move over the same amount to the other side, and that's how I start developing my cuts. That way I can look at my DRO constantly and keep up with what I'm doing. That's the easiest way to do this. I'll bring you back when I get done. You don't need to see all this mess. Now one thing I will say I always do, when I'm milling down with the cutter, I'll just go to change direction. It's not going to matter. With this dovetail cutter, I like the conventional mill. That way it's coming out the front. The further up that insert you get, the more it's cutting. So that's why I do that. Now what I'm going to do here, I'm going to move this up a little bit, is I'm going to drill and tap the hole to mount the dovetail cutter, the holder to it. Now what I'm doing is I'm setting this up, because most of this is going to ride against this anyway. I'm setting this up basically in the same place the old one was, which is 3/4 an inch from the bottom, 3/4 inch. This may get into my dovetail, which I figure I will, but if I break through the dovetail, I'll just deburr it, because that way I'll have a through hole. Again, since this has not got to be a big spot deal here, I'll probably start this tap and tap it by hand anyway. I believe that's going to be deep enough right there. I don't know how close I am to my dovetail, but I'm going to stop right there, and we'll put us a chamfer in it and go from there. so I'm not going to show you that. All right, I'm going to tap this out. I usually don't do it this way, but it's just because I'm using a spiral point tap, and I've got a blind hole, so it just would be better to tap it this way and be safe. I only got to tap one hole. It ain't got to be super precise or none of that good stuff. I mean, you'll want it. All right. Now let's just make sure everything works right. And we'll try. I'm probably going to have to cut this screw down, which is something I know I'm going to have to do. Okay. And let me get this bolt. Make sure it starts in there. It's got some threads. Decent amount of threads in it. Probably need to go back. This looks like it's a. Oh yeah. All right. I'm gonna blow this out and check it a little more. Okay, I've test fitted the other. Now we're going to mount my mount studs. In case you're wondering, I'm going to do these just like I do every one of these I make. I like using 420 rods for center adjusters. I think you've seen this in several videos that I've made. I just like it better. It gives you a little bit of a. In fact, I'm going to try to drill this 2/3 of the way through just because I can. That just makes the tapping easier. Basically, I done the same thing. I just centered this up. I actually just took the drill and centered it by eyeball. And because as long as it's somewhat close, well, I get a good deep hole in it, the rod. There we go. That ought to be plenty enough right there. I'm going to probably do the same thing here. I'm just going to reach over there and grab my D-burrs and stick one in it and D-burr it, and then I'll probably just tap this by hand again because not making trouble. All right, I got the tap in. We'll just let it right there. That's it. Nice little 1/4 thread. Okay, here we go. This is the finished product on the lathe. If you'll notice, let me tighten the block down. See, there's no loose motion in it like this. So that's basically what I done was make a solid block for the lathe to do this with. So, and see, I may end up, I mentioned this in an Instagram post, I may end up making a new nut for it that I can just use a knurled handle instead of, that way I won't have to, because it doesn't have to be super tight. So I had to cut this bolt here down some, and that's just about the only thing out of the ordinary. Overall, I'm real proud of the little project. Again, I won't thank Winky's Workshop for inspiring me. You know, he has a lot of good ideas, but I try to use as much of my tool blocks as I can, because obviously it kind of defeats the purpose of having quick change. So it just slides right. So now I have a whole assembly that comes right on and right off. Sometimes with these they are a little tricky, one-handed especially. I'm going to go here and put it up, or it will be till I need it. So, I hope you enjoyed it. Alright, I hope you enjoyed this series. I haven't done a series in a while, and I try to do my videos at a certain time limit. And when I was, in fact, I was in the house rendering this, producing this video the way I do it, and looked at the length, and this is entirely too long. So I had to split it in two parts. I don't like to get these things over 15 minutes. So I'm going to try to split it up for you, somewhere 12 to 15 minute range. So I hope you enjoyed my video. I hope you enjoyed this project. I hope to see you in the next video. There will be a slop coming out soon. I've got enough footage for one of them. And then we'll have you some of that too. So with no further ado, I hope you enjoyed today's video. And I'll see you in the next one. Always remember, these are copyright productions, James Dedman, Sawlogs Plastic Hubs. Please hit the bell for notifications. Please hit the subscribe button if you haven't so already. Hey, we just trying to keep growing. We're never going to be an A-bomb or Mr. Pete, but we'd like to get up there to some sort of decent numbers. With your help, I can do that. Thank you so much.